Welcome everybody to today's Community Preservation Committee meeting. I am not the chair. My name is Adam Bagney. I'm the vice chair. Our chair couldn't be here today, but happy to fill in. It's always good to have the least experienced person in charge of a meeting. Zach, thanks for your help kind of passing along the agenda and so on and so forth. So it seems like we're starting tonight to talk about some additional intent applications. And I know we have folks here from the lodge tonight. If you guys want to come up and tell us a little bit about your project, we'd love to hear it. You can just pick whatever mic you want and just say your name and your affiliation.
I've had young children. I don't need one. I got a few copies of something in here. I don't have enough for everybody, but anyway.
You guys can sit down right there.
Yeah. Sit, stand, whatever you want. Whatever you want. Thank you.
Actually, I have a copy. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, then maybe it's enough for.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Sean Smith. I'm a past master of Cochicwick Lodge in North Andover. I'm also the president director of the building Cochicwick Lodge Properties. Our building has been in town, obviously, since it was built in the 1800s. It was a fire station number 2 for the town when the town was incorporated. We started about 19 years after the town started, and we've been in the same spot ever since. Continuous meetings for 150 years. This is our 150th anniversary. Our goal here is to put a roof on our building. With dwindling membership and some of the a lot of our members have moved out of town, moved out of the area, though they are still supporting us as best they can. It's not as much as running fundraisers with 200 members. We have 78 members right now, and we're looking to start the building. The building is tied to the town in respect that, we do a monthly breakfast. We hosted the holiday festival committees they had either a meeting or a Christmas party recently. We host blood drives at the lodge twice a month. We have many local projects that we do with Project Delta. We give bags for the police department and the fire department to have in their cars for any time they need a stuffed animal. They take one out and give it to a child. So we're trying to be as much to the community as we can. Our hall is a low-cost function hall. When people want to rent it, we are the cheapest person in town. I can tell you right now, I'm not advertising, but when there are people who don't have a lot and they need a hall to have a baby shower, or last weekend was a wedding, and so we try to give back at cost. We don't make a profit on that. We just do it for light and heat and electricity. So we're just trying to get that building. I took over the building in September. We've made a bunch of improvements over there as it stands right now. We're in the process of demoing one of our bathrooms that had some water damage from a leaking toilet. I don't want to say that the last people who were in charge let the building go, but they kind of let the building go a little bit. So we're going to bring it back to life. We did a fundraising letter to our membership last year. We removed all the asbestos in our basement, which was a nice expensive project, but it's good to get rid of it for health concerns. Again, any help that we can get is going to be appreciated. The lodge tries to do things not only through ourselves, but through the Grand Lodge. We give money to the Shriners, that does all the burn centers and disability hospitals, the Dyslexia Center in Lowell that teaches kids with dyslexia at no cost. So we are part of the community. We do have quite a few members that are still in town. Brother Baird is a Habitat for Humanity maniac. He's doing it all the time. He's kind of our outside help for any lawn care and things like that. The lodge did give a bit of land from our donation that we got for the youth center, which is great to be able to use their parking lot. So we are just trying to be part of the community and seeing if we can get a little bit of help just so we can keep that building the way it is, a historic building. I don't know when Firehouse Number 2 was built, but it was built well before we were all born, I'm sure. We've done a lot of conversions in the past on it, new bathrooms, handicap bathrooms, conference room and the kitchen that they put on when it wasn't a firehouse, when it was afterwards. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Tom just gave you copies of some of the bids we've received for doing the roof. Unfortunately, the roof hasn't been done in a long time, so it's probably going to be sheet boarded also, which is price of lumber nowadays. That's another expense. So if there's any questions I can ask, you can either ask them now or forward the information through whatever contact Tom has, and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Just for folks who, thanks for that.
No
Just
worries.
for folks who are watching tonight, aren't familiar with Freemasons and what you guys do, can you, I mean, you already touched on it a little bit already,
Sure.
but can you just talk about, you know, what the law, how you all started, what the lodge means, why you came together?
Yeah.
And, you know, why the community is important
Mm-hmm.
to what you do.
Freemasonry is the world's largest fraternal organization. It was, in this country, was started in 1733, before the country was a country. Our motto is making good men better, and we do that by a combination of doing charitable works, having people be together of a like mind. We take men of every country, sect, and opinion. It's not a political thing. It's not a religious thing. It is by discussing good civics, being good to your friend, your fellow neighbor, being good to your community, being part of a community with local. There are a lot of local lodges across the state, across the country, across the world, and we do that by getting men from the local area. Most lodges were started because there were so many Masons in that area. Kachikwick Lodge was once part of, when Andover was both Providence, both sections, was started from St. Matthew's Lodge in Andover. There were so many members there that they had to open another lodge, and a group of gentlemen started it in Andover, in North Andover, because this is where they lived. Our original lodge meetings were in the brick building. I think that's what it's actually called, the brick block, they called it at the time. We met upstairs in the upper apartments of that building until this other building came available, and we had it moved from the town common to where it stands right now. Masonry give about $1 million a day to charity somewhere. The people that might know the Shriners Auditorium. The Shriners are all Masons. They give about $1 million a day also to things like the Shriners Burns Hospital and the Dyslexia Center. Being part of the community is where we get members from, but it's also how we do our charitable works. Brethren from North Andover don't go work at the sheep shearing in Lowell. They don't have one, but we would, do something here in town. We want to give back to the local community that we're in. So it is a worldwide organization. There are about 18,000 members in the state of Massachusetts right now. It is a dwindling membership with the lives of everybody being so busy now, and everybody has different things, but we're trying to hold our own. And, like I said, I think we're a vital part of not only the community, but the state. We're very involved with the 250th anniversary of the country that's coming up. You'll see Masons everywhere for that. Kachikwick will be represented at those functions as well as any local town things when they have an anniversary. So,
Great. You talked about this a little bit already as well, but obviously a huge part of projects that we approve, public access to it is whatever it is, whether it's a building or a new project, is a huge importance to whatever we consider. You talked about having blood drives there. You talked about having allowing folks to rent out the place for a very reasonable price, which is important in a community. Any other sort of things that you can talk about in terms of public access to the lodge?
sure. We do a monthly breakfast. Anybody who's driven by our lodge before the Sunday that we have it, you'll see a sign out there. It's open for everybody. Again, very reasonable cost. We donate the building to any organization that is in need of a location to have an event. I think one of the Cub Scout troops is holding their Pinewood Derby there for a couple of nights. We do a monthly meeting of a group called the Movement Family. They're an organization that give people a second family, people from broken homes that need family and help, want to connect with people. They meet at our building once a month, free of charge. We just, you know, when we open the hall to anybody, it's hall usage as they see, as long as they leave it the way they found it. So that's kind of our thing. They get a cleaning crew of one, maybe 1.5. So I ask, you know, that's all we ask, is that you use it and you do it. Again, we do the Red Cross twice a month. We're one of the few lodges or even locations that I know that will do it in the summertime because of air conditioning costs. We actually paid for and put in air conditioning so they could run it at our building through the summer. It's, like I said, it's just, it's what we do. Anybody who comes to us, if there's something on the schedule and they have a reasonable activity to do in our building, we'd be more than happy to put them on the schedule and let them use it.
Would you be open to activities at the youth center?
From the
For
youth center?
Yeah, the youth center is overflowing right now, the population, and the expansion is a few years down the road. I'm wondering if you'd be open to allowing the youth center to use the building.
Other than a
for-
pass-through to the ice cream store?
Yes, other than a pass-through. the ice cream store.
We get a lot of traffic in there. I hear
know
them.
you
It's like being in the youth center some days when they go into the ice cream in
Yeah.
the summertime. Sure. I mean, it's not a huge facility.
No, it would be specialized kind of activity.
Sure, absolutely.
How many people can you have in there?
Excuse me?
How many people can you have in there?
I think the occupancy permit is somewhere around 80, just for the downstairs hall. I mean, if we were to open up the whole building, we normally don't do that because the lodge room is the lodge room. But it'll hold about 80 comfortably. And we have 150 chairs, and if you were going to have a meeting in there and you needed a bunch, you could do that. But for a function, we usually try to keep it to 80 or below, just because you start getting shoulder to shoulder, if you want to have any kind of floor activity. So, and there are probably a multitude of groups that have used our building that I only took over in September. So I just know from September to now, all the places that have done it so far, and some of the longer term, the Movement family has been there quite a while. But is it Rich Gorman?
Rick Gorman.
Rick Gorman, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we sure would. We sure would. I mean, we share our parking lot with them now, and,
we do.
you know. Anything else?
Yeah, a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
You alluded to the history of the building on the common and moving over
Yep.
to where it is. Do you know exactly how old it is?
I can tell you exactly. I wrote some figures in case I didn't know.
In that write-up, there was something about the date when it was moved, and then,
It was
the
moved,
building
it was moved in
60 years old at the
57,
time, so.
1957.
Right,
The
I'm
building,
just trying to get an idea how old the building is. I mean.
I think
don't
the
wanna be
I think the
perfect, but-
building is like 1873. It's old.
Okay, give or
Is
take.
it on there?
Does anybody know,
1874.
maybe Ron, would you know, is it on our registry? The building on our registry?
Yes.
Oh, it's on the state registry,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Another point, John, is also, I know the CPA has provided money, at least for three different things in the past to the lodge, for windows, chimney, and asbestos,
I don't think.
according to the records. Yeah. At least that was, someone may have put an application in, and I couldn't, I could not.
I don't think we ever approved anything.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, and I'm not trying to be sort of argumentative, is that the building has, the siding of the building is not the original siding, right?
No.
It's like a metallic.
Unfortunately, somewhere a long time, vinyl siding was allowed to be put on the building, and it was vinyl sided.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of
That's-
that, but
yeah. I mean, it
and
is
it's
what
in
it is at
disrepair
this
also. We
point.
just had the building pressure washed a month ago. So just to try to clean it up and see what the condition of it was, there is some stuff that's evolved in that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What's the condition of the rest of the building like?
Internally, it's very good. We do have to fix we have a leak in the bathroom and it buckled up the floor. So we have we have 3 bathrooms in there. We have one closed at the moment. We are taking bids to get the floor redone and fix that. But other than that, it's in very good shape on the inside. It's been re-electrically wired except for the very attic, which still has some knob and tube in it. I don't know if it's live. I just know it's up there and it's still there. But the lodge room function itself is good. We've patched and pieced any kind of leaks we've ever had in the roof to stop it from hitting anything. And we have a vaulted ceiling in the thing, so it can't go down to the bottom floor. But we've done the best we could. We fixed the heating system just recently that we had some conditions with, got rid of the asbestos. Again, I've been involved with the building a little bit before September, but I didn't take over and be able to do anything until September 1st. So working as hard as we can.
How bad's the roof now?
The side that's on the youth center is getting pretty bad. We're one nor'easter from having an issue. So we're hoping for a nice, easy winter just to get us through, because we'll have to do something in the spring.
Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe kind of like the finances of your organization? Obviously, you're here, so you're not rolling in millions.
We are not rolling in millions. For a long time, back in the 50s and 60s, they worked off in an endowment. People who had passed away with no families left money to the lodge. Unfortunately, with membership going down, replenishing that has been, investing in it hasn't been the greatest. A little bit more with modern investing tools and some keeping the members that we do have, and the members do step up when we need an extra boost for stuff. But our operating budget is basically membership fees for 80 members, 78 members, and an interest on the investment funds, which is not a lot. Considering some lodges are in the millions investing, we are probably under 100,000. With only 78 members, we don't have a lot of membership expenses, but the building does cost something. The gas situation that happened a few years back didn't help the lodge. It had issues, but was outside the zone to get reimbursed for some stuff. So getting some stuff fixed was a little bit, that's why the furnace was kind of worked on and fixed. We moved over to air heat instead of oil or gas, just so that we wouldn't have that spikes going around too. But again, we budget all year. We run our lodge in the building basically on investment income and membership dues, which Kitchwick Lodge is probably one of the lowest in the state also. We thought about raising it, but we do have a lot of older members, older than me. So raising it up on them is tough. We don't want to lose any member who's been around for 40 years and can't pay an increase in dues, so we've been trying to be gentle on that as best we can without losing anybody. We are working on getting some newer members. We've taken in some younger leadership into the lodge to see if they can appeal to some of the more younger people and bring people in, but it's a struggle.
I saw you have a couple different quotes in here. How much exactly are you asking for, and are you able to finance any of that yourself? Are you asking partial for all of it?
Half to 3/4 is what we're looking for. We do have probably about an $8,000 to $10,000 fund right now. It's just because the roof has to be sheeted, and we don't know what else they're going to find once they pull it off. That's the thing. We're in for this. Once we start, we're in. So we'll have to come up there. Unfortunately, there's no loan situation that we can do or anything like that, because the lodge doesn't have a steady income to be able to make loan payments on anything. So it's going to either be an appeals letter to the membership or situations like this. But we don't want to drain our investment fund out totally, which if we got involved in it, we'd have to do it to keep the building going. What happens in a situation this, you get to a zero sum and you can't afford it anymore, the lodge usually just moves. The membership starts joining up with St. Matthew's in Andover, and we meet over there now as a North Andover Lodge meeting in Andover.
Yeah.
The lodge that was in Berica did the same thing. They had a big problem with their building, much more structural issues than we have. They now meet in Tewksbury every month. Berica has lost their meeting, and with way real estate is nowadays, to find another building, they're probably not going back. So we don't want to have that happen. I don't want that to happen on my watch, that's for sure. But we talked about it 2 years ago when I first took over as master of the lodge, 3 years ago. That was my first meeting, was do we close the lodge and move somewhere else? Because we had the asbestos project to do. Membership came up with enough money to remove the asbestos, because it had to be done.
Yeah. And you own the building outright, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much the mortgage was back then, but we bought it for $4,400. Wish I could do it again 10 times.
Decent deal.
I know, it was a good deal. Now, we had to move it, and of course, back then, I don't know if you had enough members, you could probably just picked it up and moved it, because there was probably nothing in the way at the time. But, yeah, $4,400 was a heck of a deal, you know?
So I've got a question actually more for the board than for him. Would we require a preservation restriction for this type of a project?
I mean, we should ask for something. I'm not completely sure what it is. That's why I think the questioning about the quality of the building and the long-term viability of the building ends up being important as part of that.
So that's just for more for your information, is that if this is approved, it would probably be with the, like they require you to put a preservation restriction on the building. We usually do term ones, not permanent ones, but something you just need to be aware of.
We don't plan on moving.
Yeah.
So if
Well,
we can make this work, we're not moving. We've been there 150 years, we don't want to move. There aren't a lot of lodges that do, when we give out big awards in Boston for any lodge that makes it past 100 years. So,
well, it wouldn't be so much about moving, but it would mean that any exterior work would require some oversight.
if I had more money, I'd
Probably
go
from
back
this-
to the old exterior. I'm not a vinyl siding fan. So,
No,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that you were clear
We
on
know
that.
that now, because even when we've had to fix windows down there, we tried to do it historically. I worked in a few buildings in Lowell when they became a national park, so I kind of understand the whole idea of getting rid of modern thing and staying with the older stuff, which is fine. I mean, we're an old organization. We don't mind old things.
There was an application for those items that it wasn't a lot of money, but application back for the 2016 fiscal year that was made by your lodge before your time. I'm
Probably
sure.
before me, yeah.
But it didn't make it into the final cut, so I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, there was one other one I remember years before, but it had to do with the lodge room on the second floor, so that was sort of, that gets into that public-private sort of thing, so we passed on it.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, thanks for coming here today, really appreciate it.
No, appreciate it.
Thanks for everything you do for
Yeah,
the community.
thank you.
No
Really
worries.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is anybody else here to present today? Any other members of the public here today that want to speak? Yeah, no. I think that means we turn to you, Ron.
Yeah, so let me talk about the two projects that the Historical Commission is looking at. The first, probably simpler one, is tree removal at the old burial ground. So, over the past couple of years, we've repaired a couple of the headstones, and it usually averages out to about over $1,200 per headstone. The concern is there's 10 large trees on the property. And any particular windstorm such as we had last night, one large branch could probably wipe out 10 headstones. If one of those trees were to get uprooted, could easily wipe out half the headstones, not to mention with the remains it might pull up when the root ball comes out. So the Historical Commission is essentially the stewards of the old burial ground. So we look after the old burial ground. So what we're looking to do is have all of the 10 trees that are currently there removed. We had 3 estimates. For some reason, they varied greatly from $14,000 to $38,000. So we chose a number that for the middle-priced quote. And that would involve the removal of 10 healthy trees. So I want to emphasize that some people may have some issues with the removal of the trees because all of them are healthy at this point. Questions?
Just sort of by way of context, I think that the refurbishment of the gravestones at the first burial ground was one of the very first historical preservation projects we did, CPA in North Andover. And you know, it's a fine art, right? It's like, there aren't very many guys that do it. It's interesting. And then, I think when we did recently, more recent stuff on the second burial ground, Ridgewood was involved in that.
Yeah.
But they did some of the same stuff, as they took out the trees and so forth to prevent them falling. So it's, I mean, I think it's a pretty common thing. Yeah.
You could be getting the Conservation Commission involved?
We will have to go before the Conservation
Trees
Commission.
being cut down.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I was gonna mention,
Yeah.
there is a wet meadow across
Yeah.
Academy Road from there. I'm not sure how much it extends on that side of Academy Road. But, yeah, it's just a matter of walking with our administrator and,
yeah,
Oh,
so
yes.
actually, we had Amy walk through with us, so, yeah, so we do have the commission involved.
Do you
Okay.
have a sense of how critical it is, Ron, or like,
All it takes is one microburst
yeah.
through there and, could cause extensive damage.
Is there any, are there any like extended family members who still visit that site or anything? I'm just curious, like, is there anybody else that we could irritate besides
There's no
folks?
guest register there.
Yeah, is there anybody else that might be irritated besides folks that like trees?
Well, I would think they would probably be, they would be in favor of it because
It would
their
be-
ancestors' headstones
You would
were
hope.
in danger.
You would
Nobody's
hope.
gonna have a problem.
What type of trees are they?
This
You don't think so?
is a chip
You
shop.
know?
You just say it's a refurbishment of the cemetery and.
I think most of them are evergreen. I think there might be a couple of maples, but I think most of them are evergreen. Obviously, they were never planted there, it's just they've grown up over
Yeah,
the years and
over the years.
nobody's taken them down.
Who'd be doing the work or responsible for the work, the town, Ridgetown?
No, we'd have to get an independent contractor in to do
Who's actually would be sponsoring this, the Historic Commission?
Yeah.
So, okay.
You didn't trust the low quote? Is that why you went with the middle?
it. Well, I mean, we could still go through it, but we have a feeling they might have missed something.
Miss something,
I gotcha.
obviously.
Like I said, there's between
Like
14 to
trees.
38, so that's a
Yeah.
pretty wide range.
Generally get what you pay for it.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Oh, you wanted the whole tree down.
Okay. The second one is a little bit more nebulous, let's say. So there is we funded last year we funded the creation of the Historical Preservation Master Plan, which is in its final stages in terms of the recommendations and,
Are they gonna come here and present?
what's that?
Are they gonna come here and present? That'd be a good idea if they could.
I don't know, we have a member on the committee.
Although sponsoring, there was no mention of it coming here. They've had a town public welcome meeting back in September to go through their more than preliminary findings. Zach was there. It's also on, I noticed it's still up there on the CAM website for if you wanted to watch the YouTube video of it. They can, it's a very,
Well, I mean, my point ends up being is you do a master plan so that you make rational decisions about what you spend your money on and what sequence, and where it makes sense to spend and where it doesn't make sense. And the funding, we're gonna be the funding source of a lot of this. So if we funded the proposal, I think it's incumbent upon the committee to come back to us and say, this is what we found.
so there is a document out there, a very lengthy document. And I was actually gonna suggest to Ron, with that document in hand, you tie this back into what those recommendations are.
Yeah, well, yeah,
In
in the final application we would.
Yeah, in addition to, we've had a lot of money spent on inventory of this or that or whatnot. I'd like to know how all that is connected, because I know in that document that so far, this is again, the current one, he makes references to those inventories already. So I'm just wondering, we spending money on things that's already been done, or asking for money on things already done?
So that's actually the second item in the list, if you look at it. So there are three items. So let me talk about the first one. The first one, so let me talk about the first and the third, and then we'll go to the second. And the reason I'm gonna talk about the first and the third is because I'm not sure that they qualify for CPA funds. but the Historical Commission wanted to put this forward. So the first one is drafting design guidelines for owners of historic properties. So when somebody, there'd be something in place so that when a owner of a historic property was doing work, they'd have some guidelines to go by. The third one, historical educational materials. I think it's probably even less likely that that's covered by CPA funds. So I'm going to concentrate on the second one, which is the one I think you're talking about, is the Macris registration. I didn't realize that that CPA had allocated money for the registration in the past.
There has been some done with inventorying of certain properties, particularly the old center areas and stuff like that. If you go back through all the approved documents, you'll see that there has been money spent. So it's like, okay, how do you connect past pieces, the current document?
Yep.
And,
So
yeah.
the way it was, that the consultant has presented it to us is that there's not a lot of work done on the certain areas of the town.
He mentioned the south side of town.
Yes, and there is an interest in doing, or the suggestion, a recommendation to extend that to some of the properties around the mills, some of the more downtown areas. So it actually calls out specific areas where the inventory should be done, and to try to get some more properties on the state list. So I think, I'm not going to preempt the board's decisions, but I think it's probably when we come back with an application, will be more around the Macris registration. I want to go back and do a little research in terms of the educational materials and the design guidelines. So I just wanted to get it in front of the board to see if there's any questions up front or any feelings about any of these items.
I just concerned that the document that's currently out there may have addressed some of this stuff already. Because I know that was the overall direction where we were going to try to go, is make recommendations for policies and procedures and how to formulate a town-wide plan. And there are recommendations and to-do list in there. I just want to make sure that we're not suggesting money for things that may have already been covered, either in that document or in the past.
Well, no, this is actually requesting money in anticipation that we will need to do some of the things that are recommended in the document. So the money that's been allocated is just to create the document.
Right.
It's not to actually carry out the recommendations.
So is this money to actually take properties that aren't on the register, or put them in the register, because there's a certain amount of administrative cost associated with doing that? I mean, in the case of Ridgewood, I think we actually had a project where we funded like $6,000 or $7,000 to put it on the national registry, and that was a real cost. Is that what we're talking about here?
So this is for getting properties on the state registry.
Okay, but similar kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
But you
basically.
have certain requirements, right, that you have to follow in terms of documentation and
Yes,
everything.
well, so,
Yeah.
right, so it's basically getting someone to go through the work of researching the houses, filling out the documentation and so forth.
Yeah.
More than welcome to probably get you the draft report that's out there, or you can wait for the final. And the final, I think he was shooting for like January, maybe early February, Zach.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Ron mentioned it, but we have like the recommendations in draft form right now, so like me, Gene, and Andrew have been going through that, and then he sent it out to like other members, and like the stakeholder group with, some other people on different committees, so I'm happy to pass that along too if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, good, please. I mean,
Yeah.
'cause if
It's
we
pretty-
pay
it's
for it,
pretty
we
lengthy.
should get a chance to look
Yeah,
at
as
it.
you said, it's pretty lengthy, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
You can read it once, you can read it twice,
I was
you can read
pretty
it 3 times.
exhausted after page 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It's one of those you-
It's a very ambitious plan.
You put down, go to sleep, pick it next day.
It's toilet bowl rating.
No, not even that.
No, you don't want to fall off.
Right.
Ron, can you tell me a little bit more about the educational materials and how those would be used, and why you need to have a consultant, and what would be sort of within those materials?
I can, but like I said, I think, I was actually, as we were,
We'll hear more later.
yeah, no, as we were coming in,
I'm pretty sure that one doesn't,
I'm pretty sure that won't be covered.
that's like.
I was doing some
The
research
other
just
one,
before this.
arguably,
The
is
design
kind of
guidelines,
interesting. I have to
maybe.
think about it.
Yeah.
It sits on
But I think
the
the education is,
Yeah.
I think, I'm looking at one of the forms on the communitypreservation.org, and it actually calls out educational materials specifically as not being covered.
Okay.
And I was just reading that before we came in, so that's why I don't think we should spend too much more time on that.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Ron. Next item on the agenda here is this historic barn letter here from John Smolak. And Zach, we don't need to read this sort of into the record or anything, right?
No, I don't think you really need to read through the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it was just something that he
Do you wanna
sent
just
it- Yeah,
summarize it?
I guess I can take over, but
Yeah.
John, he worked with Ridgewood on the 419 Johnson Street Barn project, the historic preservation, which was funded in the last couple of years. He kind of brought forward a letter to the committee and showing some other barns maybe that could use some renovations. I mean, there's not really a clear action
Ask.
steps, or ask in the letter. He just kind of wanted to put on the radar of the committee. But if you want to look, more in depth, it's all written out in there. But he just kind of want to put it on your guys' radar, maybe for the next cycle. Yeah.
Great.
So one of the things that the preservation plan does call out is this concept of a historic district that's not based on geography. So in one case, they call it an agricultural historic district, which could cover barns, for example, throughout the North Andover. And to use that as a mechanism of getting them registered. So this may be something that actually is covered by assuming that the plan goes forward as the recommendations look now. So I'm not sure that there's any, we can just keep this as something to think about when we're looking at those recommendations.
Did you have any other impressions when you read this letter? Just as a historic guy in town, I didn't know what you thought.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit biased because I live in a restored barn.
Yeah.
I've restored 2 barns, and so yes, I am all for barn preservation and restoration.
You're a barn nerd, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes, so to speak.
That barn of Johnson's needs quite a bit of work. I was there about a week ago.
John, what's going on in the planning board relative to barns?
Well, if you remember.
I just saw something today being posted saying. the
Well,
town
we
had a
had
pro-
the, last year at town meeting, we had the infamous barn district.
Right.
So James Worthen and Peter, who was on the board. But the problem was that he was doing work in the Kittredge Farm barn, and the building inspector said, no, you can't do that, it's running a business. So we had to actually sort of create a overlay district that would allow people to actually do productive work in a barn so that you could preserve the barn, so. But it's only, I think it's inside the Old Center Historical
The
District.
state took exception to what town meeting passed?
No, not on that.
Because there is a document out that was published today for your next meeting.
On
Discuss-
what?
To discuss more, to make some changes or amendments or whatever.
Oh, there was like a very minor technical adjustment where we just, it's like dotting i's and crossing t's kind of thing. Yeah, it's the relationship between the map and the language in the article.
Okay.
And I think something needs to be cleaned up there. I don't know, Zach, I remember Gene talked about it briefly, but
I don't have much insight into it.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But I guess in general, I mean, it's good for this to come before this board, but this is not a commission that goes out and actively solicits projects like historical projects. So this would have to come from like the historical commission or.
Yeah, this may be sort of an unfair question, but Has the way the Historical Commission and the Historical Society engaged changed over time? And is it, how is it, like, how do you engage with
I
them?
haven't been on the Historical Commission long enough to know what the history is, so I can't tell you whether it's changed over time.
Yeah, but I presume you have like an ongoing dialogue with them.
No, not really. I mean, you know, even when subjects come up that we need there, that involve them, you know, they usually come to our meetings but there is no ongoing,
Yeah, okay,
you know, monthly or bi-yearly or anything.
yeah, okay.
We've got one member on the Historical Commission, Stan, who's active in the Historical Society, so that's generally the bridge.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I think we can move to the next item on the agenda, which is the seat, the Housing Authority seat, continuation of our discussion from last meeting. I know that the Housing Authority, we meet again 1 week from today, next week, and I anticipate that they will appoint me as their appointee, which means I would resign my at-large spot here on the committee. And I did see that there was at least one person that was interviewed last week for this committee. So I think we may potentially have a new member sooner rather than later. So that's the update I have on that, and we'll just go from there. In terms of a CPA plan, I know this is a project that you've been undertaking. Zach, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, where you're at with that?
Yeah, so if you recall last meeting, it was something that Bill brought up because our state rep had reached out and said that, you know, this is something that a lot of other communities have, basically like a guiding document, you know, that spans 5 years to outline like different goals and objectives.
Something we're supposed to have, correct?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
required?
I guess that's what I've heard. But I've done more research on it, and it seems like there was some talk maybe about getting a consultant on board or that sort of thing. But you know, the more research I've done, it seems pretty straightforward. I think it's something that I can undertake over the long term. A lot of it's already information that we have, like, you know, application procedures and how the CPC operates and that sort of thing. The only thing I would need to get feedback from you guys is about, you know, what goals and priorities and objectives and things like that. But when I find more, I'm trying to, you know, determine if there's more, like, if there's a certain like template or a certain like standard way to do the plans, and then but from there I'll be able to put something together, I think, over the next year or so. So I just wanted to provide an update on that.
Great,
Yeah.
Sounds good.
great. That's a way to get it done a lot cheaper than having a consultant. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Have you found anything like, any common themes I'm sure you've looked at other towns and what they put together? Like,
I've mostly just been looking at the structure of the plans. I haven't done much like a deep dive into like exactly, you know, like you said, like, you know, goals and things like that across different communities. But I mean, I have a pretty good sense now for being here for a year, like kind of the direction that things that the committee prioritizes and based on what's been funded and what the committee gravitates towards. So, but I would need some feedback for that.
great.
Yeah.
Any comments on that? Ready to move on to the next item is financial reports. We have anything to touch on in terms of that?
No, it's just, pretty straightforward, just include in the agenda, different, invoices for different things that have gotten funded over the past month, but nothing substantial.
Nothing new.
I've got one thing that I noticed, I'm not sure why I never noticed it before, but it seems like there's a couple of things that are miscategorized.
Oh, well, I did, it was brought up last meeting, I did talk to our accountant, and they said that they'd have to wait until the next report to switch something around. I don't know exactly why, but, because I know that the 1836 Meeting House is in the wrong place, and then maybe one other thing is in the wrong place.
Yeah, there's like 4 things that are.
Yeah, so I talked to him, and he said that it would have to wait till the next report to come around, so I'll make sure he gets on that.
How long does, here's just for the people who've been on board for a while, John, Rick, how long once an application has been approved at town meeting, do organizations have to spend what was appropriated to them?
We never put an explicit deadline on it.
'Cause there's some old moldy stuff out there that,
Well, there always is some of that. I mean, the bigger issue is ones that start slow or start late, you know, and, but usually can detect them pretty quickly. And, yeah, you know, some of the stuff at the end, I mean, and remember, a lot of the projects are run by the town. And like, you know, so you have a little less control, over what you do there.
so Rolling Ridge, $79,000, been out there since 2010,
Yeah, well, so we should close it
14
out.
years.
So,
I don't
mean,
know
what's-
the
what's
status of it.
point?
That's the
I mean, what's the point?
The point is, it's still on there.
Yeah, I know that, but,
It's just like nice to clear out the records.
okay, but we
Make
could,
it available for.
We should ask them.
I mean,
Anyone-
I don't know
I
if you know
don't, that
the,
I agree. I agree with that, but it's just like,
I don't know if you know the history there.
I think we've gone through this before. It's just that it's 14 years of
No,
being.
no, I know that, but the reason why it took most of that time was to work out the access issues and also the building of the parking lot, which was, Jack, I remember you were probably involved in that too. The Conservation Commission was involved in it.
conservation, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, probably at this point, you're right, it probably should get closed out.
That's all.
But,
I'm just talking about a proactive way of cleaning these things out,
Well,
closing them out.
yeah, we should. I mean, isn't that what we,
Well,
that's what we do regularly?
I've closed
Zach's been doing
like
that.
over a dozen accounts
Yeah.
at this point since I've
A lot of them
started.
Do you get, Zach, that's not pointing at you, but
Yeah.
do you get good feedback from Rolling Ridge as an
Well,
example
that's
of them picking
that's one of the
on?
ones that I've had. Like, there's a couple that like it's just been kind of a dead end. That's one of the ones that I know because of the history, like John said, with like the parking lot and all this stuff. Like I'm in the dark about that one, but everything else I've been able to get some sort of update. For the like I have, I'm looking at it now. I have like a whole sheet of just like the last, because I send out the quarterly reporting form at the end of each quarter. I usually follow up a couple times and try to get, it's a short form at least to like get some sort of notice. But if there's anything else that like that you think has gone on, like if there's any other projects that you think hasn't really been looked at in a while, I can look into it. But
Okay.
I try to go through all of them. I have all the contacts and things like that.
I guess what raised my attention was someone had submitted the application and form in total, and it suggested, wasn't mandatory, but suggested that, planning on spending it out over 5 years. And I said, okay, it's a suggestion, but is that sort of like, it'd be nice to see that happen across the board, but I'll bite. I mean, we're getting interest on it,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they are operating. They've got, that giving garden, they call it, and they do have parking, as you mentioned, John, and they are operating actually under a permit that we've issued for them that renews every 3 years. And they actually presented to us, it was earlier this year, it was in the springtime, and talked about how the farm operates. They've had some cooperation with Eagle Scouts to make a composting toilet out there in the field, and I guess it works pretty well. But they've had
Yeah, I mean,
they've had
what
that.
was
They're-
unique about
they're
Rolling
operating,
Ridge
so-
was, we only have a conservation restriction at Rolling Ridge. We don't own the property. And we have rights to use and pass on parts of it, but not all of it. But the issue that took forever to resolve was where the public parking was going to be. I think it was eventually resolved to be right next to the golf course there, right as you go in. And I just, I assume if that's done, then there's no reason not to close the thing out, the money that's left.
I think a brief outreach probably would bring us a long way.
Yeah.
But because I think they're operating, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I don't know what else they need. but they should
Well,
probably
this
have
is
a
for
chance
us,
to.
not for them. This isn't their parking, this is our parking.
I know, but
Yeah.
they're using our funding, and there's still funding out there that, if they're not gonna use it, we should claw it back.
Yeah, but no, we paid them the money that was agreed to, but there was more money in the project than what we paid them, because we knew we had to build a parking lot. So it's our money, it wouldn't go to them. It's a question of, if the parking lot is built to our specification and we have the paths that we're required to have, it, we should be able to close the whole thing out, I think.
I think we need to just touch base with them and really do a process check on
Yeah,
whether it's
fair
all
enough.
done or
Yeah.
not, you know, as you say, Tim.
Yeah,
And it's,
I mean, there's no, we can't, and we would never do, like, have a stick saying, well, we're closing it out. You know, let us know. Oh, that's just wrong. So I think what you just suggested, is that please get back to us. We'd like to close it out.
So how do we go about that? Do you do that, Zach? Does Bill do that?
I would probably be the one to reach out. I want to talk to Gene or someone that's been around
Yeah,
longer,
and
just has
Jean
good on.
knows because
Yeah,
Jean was the
so
one that did it, so she,
Yeah.
I think I can send her a note too, but you should talk to her.
yeah, I'll talk to her because I know I've tried to reach out to them in the past and I've gotten no response or anything, and I don't know. I kind of left it alone because I didn't really know where it was at, but I can try to re-engage and see at least if the work has been done, and then from there we can see about closing out the account.
Cool. You want to put that on an agenda item maybe for next meeting? Let us know.
Yeah.
Let
I
us
can
know where
keep
that
an
stands.
update.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. It'd be nice to get periodic project reports saying, here's the status of the report that, you know, you, the town, have given us money to do, and here we are. Here's a picture of the boardwalk at Sear, and those kinds of things.
No, I mean, we do technically have a
It's in the
procedure to do
application.
that, we just don't do it.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Yep, there's a procedure there.
Well, I get reports, but I don't get like photos and things. It's mostly just how much have you spent so far. You know, is there any problems with the project, like that sort of thing.
Well, maybe we can put this in our CPA plan
It could be.
to
So-
sort of
Something
lay
that's
out,
looked
lay
at.
out.
The reason
how-
I'm just saying it's hard enough as is to try to wrangle these all
I
together.
think on Sear, because
I know.
the
is.
boardwalks
That's
are really
what we
nice there,
Yeah.
but I think they're done.
Yeah.
It's in the reporting for each project that gets funded.
All right. I think our last item here is approval of the November 14 minutes. I'm gonna have a motion. Can I make the motion? Motion to approve the minutes from November 14th.
Second.
So moved.
No.
Oh, wait.
All in favor?
All in favor, excuse me, all in favor. Any,
I'll keep you straight.
any opposed? No one's opposed, so moved.
You have one
Any-
more thing to do.
Anything else? What else we got?
You have to make a motion to adjourn.
Right, I just, I did want to ask before we adjourn here, do we have an opportunity at the end of the meeting to sort of open things up, or, in terms of if anybody has any other additional items, or if it's not on the agenda, we can't discuss it?
I think in some other agendas, like other committees, like they have just other business or things like something vague,
Like
so that I
vague,
guess you
yeah,
can bring
right.
something up. But usually, I don't know. I hear from Bill and
Usually
On the
no.
agenda, whatever.
If it's on, okay.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.